Hey y'all, welcome back to Leslie's Mature Makeup and Beauty. As you can see from the title, today we're going to do a full face of e.l.f. They had a couple of new products released, so I picked up some of those, and then they had some freebies, because I spent so much money. Not so much, like, over $25 you get a couple free gifts. And then I picked up a couple extra things just so we would have a full face. I have used these things once already, so I do kind of have some thoughts about it. But yeah, we'll just get started with our eyes. I picked up one of the new bite-sized quads. I picked up the I Love You a Latte, and it's an all matte, just, neutral brown palette. But before we do that, I forgot my primer. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Poreless Putty. I forgot my primer. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, and I'm actually going to use it as an eye primer. I saw somebody somewhere on YouTube use it for an eye primer, and I did it the other day, and it seemed to work pretty good. I'm also going to put this on my face. This is not my most favorite primer. I love, for pore blurring, I love the Maybelline Blur Stick. But we're going to give it a go. And to put it on my face, I'm actually going to use this e.l.f. complexion brush and just see if I can push it down into those pores a little more. That does not seem to be helping. So this video should be going up, I think it'll be the 2nd. So we will have made it through 2021, which for me, it was a little worse than 2020. So I'm hoping 2022 will, I'm not hoping, I am speaking it into fruition that 2022 is going to be better. I do not make New Year's resolutions. I used to, but I never kept them. So it just made me feel bad about myself, so I just quit doing it. Instead of trying to find a way to make sure I kept those resolutions, I just decided to quit altogether. And I am going to set that eye primer down with the e.l.f. HD powder. This is a super silky feeling powder. Let's get this hair out of the way. And I did see, I had a couple of disappearing comments again, and it looked like they were asking for a part 3 for like favorite hair care and body care. And I'm not really married to any kind of body care at this moment. I've just been using some Nivea body wash and lotion, which I do like both of those. And then my favorite shampoo and conditioner, I was using the Diva Curl, and they have changed the formula, and I don't like it as much. So I have purchased a couple different ones to try out. So hopefully at the end of January, maybe I'll have a new favorite. Because I just, after I purchased the new formula of the Diva Curl, I noticed my hair was just not as, I wasn't getting those kind of big curls or waves anymore. And it finally dawned on me that it was probably that formula change that had made the difference. So, kind of a bummer. I don't know why I closed this. And I'm going to go into this kind of cooler looking, slightly lighter looking shade here in my crease. I'm just going to go in with a big fluffy brush. If I can, it's time to wash brushes again, so we'll use this little, think this is from, yeah, Moda. It's a little crease brush. It's got a fluffy one end and a smudgy on the other. And, you know, these shadows do have a bit of kick up in the pan, but I just always dust it off. And I always usually do my eyes first anyway, so if I end up with a little bit of fallout, it doesn't really, I don't really care. And I'm just going to do this in my crease and then up higher so we can actually see it. And I do kind of go right up to the edge of my brow there. So do you all make New Year's resolutions? You know, I kind of always had the same ones. Lose weight and get healthy, and I never done it the years that I was supposed to, so. And it has been unseasonably warm here. But it's also rained. It's rainy today. I didn't think it was supposed to be rainy today, but it is. But this bite-sized palette performs just as good as the others that I've used. I love the little rose water one. I'm going to take a little bit of that on this outer corner too. And even though this is an all matte palette, you can still, which is what I'm going to do, take that lighter shade on my lid to kind of give us, to kind of bring that lid forward, and then this kind of cooler, you know, brown shade in the crease and up above, you know, on that hood will help to push that back. Just a little flat shader brush, and I'm going to take this deeper, the deepest brown shade, and I'm just going to start packing that on that outer corner. I'm just going to place it where I want it, and then I'll blend it out with a fluffy brush. You know, the more dense your brush is, the deeper the color you're going to get. The deeper the color payoff will be. Even if you use the same shade on a denser brush, you can get, you know, it looks like a deeper color because you're packing more on. And I'm just kind of patting. I'm not really rubbing. And, you know, every so often taking a break, looking straight into my mirror to see, make sure my placement's where I want it. Then I'm going to take a big fluffy brush and just soften that up a little bit. I'm going to use this one from Real Techniques. They just call it an essential crease brush. But just going to soften that up and then drag a little bit directly into that crease just to deepen that up a little bit. You know, I'm just dragging what I'm blending out. I'm not adding, I didn't add anything to this. Just kind of diffusing that up a little further and then drag a little in the crease. And then I'm going to wipe that off and do the same thing on the other eye, so we don't have any harsh edges. And I don't have the cream and sugar palette to compare the shades in this to that. That was one that I just never picked up. That looks pretty even. And then I'm just going to take a different flat shader brush. This is also from Real Techniques. It's just a shading brush. I'm just going to take a little of that lightest matte shade in here. It's coming off kind of yellow on screen, but it's not. It's really more kind of creamy colored. I'm just going to put that on the lid where I would normally put my shimmer shade. And I'm just going to leave it all matte today. But of course, if you wanted a shimmer, you know, you could always throw in one from another palette that you have, or and you can see that just kind of lightens up that lid and kind of brings it forward a little bit. And then I'm going to take just a little of that, just kind of on the, just a tiny bit, and run under my brow, kind of right there at the highest portion. This actually would be a good shade to set down an eye primer with. And then I'm going to take that fluffy brush, if I can find what I did with it. And just make sure those edges there between that light shade and the deeper shade are, you know, kind of more ombre together instead of having a harsh line. But this performs just like the other bite-sized palettes that I have, and I like it. I'm glad I picked it up. Now this foundation, I cannot say I'm glad that I picked it up. I picked up their Flawless Satin Foundation. I picked up the shade 310. On the website, it described it for light to medium skin with pink undertones. And then on the bottle, it says it's got neutral pink undertones. This absolutely does not have... It's yellow. And it's a little too dark. And I don't know, it's just like it has separated. It says it's oil-free, but when I first opened it, it was like there was an oily residue on the cap, or on the pump. But it's just too dark for me, so I'm going to put a couple of pumps on my palette, and you can see it's kind of yellow. But I'm going to mix in a little bit of my Physicians Formula Shade Adjuster. LA Girl actually makes one that, this is just white. This will lighten it up a little bit for me, but LA Girl makes one that is blue that will actually, if you've got a foundation that's too yellow or too warm, that blue will cool it down. And they also have like a yellow and an orange. They also have a white just to lighten something up. But the yellows and the oranges will, you can use those to warm something up. And I have used this shade adjuster with other foundations, and I did not find that it changed the, like the finish of the foundation or the wear time or any of that. So, and then they also have a new sponge. They said you could use this wet or dry. I did try it dry the other day, and I didn't care for it dry, so I dampened it today, but it's got a little silicone end. And then, you know, a foamy, spongy end. And it's just, like I said, it's damp, but they say that you can pick the foundation up with the silicone end. You can see how yellow that is. And then blend it in with the foamy side, so that's what we're going to attempt to do. Now, I will say when I washed it, when I was like squeezing the soapy water out of it, I did have a couple of blowouts in the silicone end, so just something to be aware of if you pick this one up. But I didn't feel like it did a great job dry, so we'll see how it does damp. And this foundation, other than being kind of a terrible shade, did not wear well. But I didn't put a primer under it to start with the first time I wore it, so we'll see. I felt like it kind of emphasized my texture. And after just a few hours, it was breaking down on my nose and kind of on my chin, which is not generally a problem that I have a ton. So I thought I'd try it again today with that primer and see if that helps it any. I do like this sponge better damp. It's really soft. It's not quite as soft as my Stands Out sponge, but I'm going to go over it with my Stands Out sponge just to see if that will help it. No, I don't know that there's any help in this. We'll see if we can set it down with some powder to help us out. But that picked up a little bit of the excess, so. But this is a pretty good sponge. I like it. It's got a flat, it's very flat on this end, and then, you know, like I said, it's got the little silicone bit there that it's not supposed to absorb the foundation as much, and it does, and it kind of sits right there. Like I said, you can spread your foundation out with that and then pat it in with the spongy side, but I like the little sponge. I can't say that I like it as much as my Stands Out sponge, but I'm going to keep using it. I got the e.l.f. the Hydrating Camo Concealer. As far as drugstore concealers for like full coverage, this one's pretty good. And I've got the shade Fair Beige. Oh, you know, I told y'all I got my hands on that NYX Serum Concealer. That one is really nice. I've really been enjoying it. I've used it several times, so it will probably be showing up in a favorites video or in a video soon. You know, I think I mentioned in maybe it was my Q&A that I wanted to try Moira Cosmetics. So they had a pretty good end of year sale. This is my camo concealer sponge, and it is just barely damp. The e.l.f. camo concealer sponge. But anyway, Moira had a really good end of year sale, so I picked up, I think I should pretty much have a full face of Moira. It hasn't arrived yet, but so I'm really excited for it to get here so I can try it out. And I did put a little bit of extra eye cream on today because sometimes, even though that's the Hydrating Camo Concealer, I find it can be a little bit drying on my under eyes just because I do have dry under eyes. Alright, so let's go ahead. I picked up the new e.l.f. Brow Lift. I used this the other day. The only thing that, I liked it. The only thing that I picked up their little brow applicator. It's got a spoolie on one end, and I did bend it. This came straight, and then it's got a little metal piece to, like, you know, kind of give you that laminated brow look. It's just a clear gel. It never felt like when I touched my brows, it didn't feel like it had dried down completely ever. But my brows did not move. Once I set them in place, they did not go anywhere. I'm just dabbing my little spoolie end, and I'm going to kind of massage it on the back of my hand to really get that product into the spoolie. But this didn't give me dandruff brows. And like I said, it held the brows into place really well. I think I even changed shirts that day, and a lot of times with other brow products that I've used, you know, if I change clothes, change my shirt, you know, my brows will move a little bit. But with this, even though it still felt kind of tacky to the touch, they didn't go anywhere. So I've been enjoying this. And you know, I like my Beauty Bay brow soap. But you know, with that one, I do have to wet it. With this, you know, you don't have to wet it. I've never tried the Anastasia Brow Freeze, so I can't really say how this compares to that. But it's kind of that same, kind of the same formula. from what I've gathered, you know. And of course, you don't have to have this little applicator. You can apply it with any spoolie, and then, you know, if you just want to press it with your fingers or the end of a brush, you know, a makeup brush or whatever. But I liked this little e.l.f. brow lift. And then let's go ahead and finish our eyes. I think I will take just a little bit of that deeper brown. Now, I think let's go lighter brown underneath the eyes. A little Real Techniques angled brush. And I'm just going into this lighter brown that we put up in the crease. Just going to run a little bit of that on that lash line. Just that outer half. I am going to take just a little bit of that deeper brown just on that outer fourth. And that foundation's got a bit of a kind of a strong scent to it. And I'm going to take this little Real Techniques smudger brush and just kind of soften that up a little bit. And then for mascara, I picked up, this is not their newest one, but this is the Lash It Loud volumizing mascara. It's got a silicone wand, which y'all know I prefer. I just picked up the little mini. And I wore this the other day, and it seemed to wear well. It didn't flake or smudge. So now this silicone wand is stiffer than like the Maybelline Lash Sensational. So I do have to be a little bit more careful with this wand and not poke myself in the eye. I do feel like it's probably more lengthening than volumizing. And I didn't pick up the Big Mood. I thought about that because that's one of their newer ones, but I don't do well with those big fat brushes. I make such a mess. Gonna do another coat here. Of course, we'll have to see how this does, you know, as it dries out. Sometimes they get better or worse. I think I may take a little bit of this lightest shade and put in my inner corner. Just this bright white or creamy colored. Kind of in that little cavern there, just to brighten that up a little bit. But like I said, I did enjoy that mascara the first time I wore it. It wore well. So, and then for cheeks, I'm gonna use this little e.l.f. This was from the Electric Mood collection. This is still available on their website. It's been on sale for a while. I really wish that they would make this a permanent part of their line and do some more shades, because I actually really like this. I'm going to use my trusty e.l.f. Putty Primer applicator for this. I like this cream bronzer shade in here. And they call this a cream face quad. They don't call it, you know, like their putty bronzer or their putty blush. And I feel like the consistency is a little bit different, but they don't have this shade in the putty bronzer. But I like it. And I think this normally retails for $12, but like I said, it's been on sale for a little while, so I don't know if it's, I mean, I assume it's going away since it was I think their collections or collabs are normally limited edition, but like I said, I really wish it wasn't. And I really did send them an email telling them so. But I find this blends in super easy. And I have had like I do have a couple of the putty bronzers. I feel like this one and this palette wears a little bit better on me. And then I tried to use the putty bronzer with that L'Oreal Serum Foundation, and it picked that foundation up. Now, I've used it with other foundations that it didn't pick up, but just something to be aware of. It might. We'll run a little under the old jowls. I don't know what it is about that foundation that it picked it up, but it did. And then I think we're going to do it. We're going to go wild. We're going to try. They sent a jelly highlighter, super liquidy, and it's kind of a gold color, like it's liquidy. So I'm just going to take my clean fingers and apply that on the old cheeks and see how it goes. And it feels kind of like jelly. But I'm going to take a little bit and just rub between my ring fingers. Woo! When I attempted to apply this the other day, I tried to use the brush, and it didn't go on well with the brush. And it does dry down. You see, it gives a nice kind of a glow to the cheeks. I feel like it might emphasize my texture just a little bit, but... And I'm going to take the clean side of my sponge and just kind of press over the edges of all of that. And then for blush, this was my freebie blush. This is one of their primer infused blushes, and it's in the shade Always Spicy. It looks like super brown, but it's kind of got a bit of a reddish undertone to it. But I think before I apply that, I am going to use a little more of that e.l.f. HD powder to try to set this foundation down because it's just a little shiny. And this is just a translucent powder. I'm going to tap a little bit into my lid, and I'm going to use my little pocket puff. And see if that will help. Keep the foundation from moving around as much. Let's see if that will help. I should have bought a setting spray. I haven't tried any setting sprays from e.l.f. And then we're going to try this blush. And I'm just going to take a angled blush brush. I think this is one that I've had for a while from It Cosmetics. It's kind of fluffy. It's not quite as dense as my Hot and Flashy. But you can see she's pigmented. I have another shade of this e.l.f. primer infused blush. And I like them. They're really pretty. But you can see this shade it looks like it's going to be super brown, but it's actually got a nice kind of a reddish tone to it. But you do have to go in with a light hand because this will, you can see it'll get out of hand quickly. But we can fix that. I'm just going to take that clean side of my sponge again and just dab over that. Kind of help press it in and tone it down just a little. But I thought that shade is a lot prettier than I thought it would be. And then for lips, they released these Love Triangle lip filler pencils. Let me wipe my lips off here. It is a triangle shape. And then they released these glossy lip stains, and these are pretty tiny. I picked up 2 shades. I think I picked up Power Mauve and Spicy Sienna. And then the lip liner, I picked up just light brown. And I'll try to see. You can see it's got a triangle shape. I don't know if I can get it. Where it's pointy at the top, and then it's almost like a teardrop shape. And it is retractable. You can roll it up and down. I didn't find this to be the longest lasting lip liner, but I did put this glossy lip stain over it, so maybe that was why it didn't last super long. It is a little bit harder for me to be super precise with this because of the shape. And then I'm going to flip it over so what would be the top of the triangle is facing the bottom of my lip line to help me stay in the lines there. And then I'm going to flip it back over and fill in a little. It is a little bit of a drier feeling formula. But it's not the longest lasting. And I think I'm going to go in with, let's see. The top one is Spicy Sienna, and this one is the Power Mauve. I think I'm going to go in with Power Mauve again. And this did leave a stain on my lips after it wore off. But it's not a super opaque . It is a more of a glossy looking, it's not super opaque, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I did, and you can see it kind of left a little stain there on my hand. And when I wore this the other day, after the kind of glossiness wore off, it's, like I said, it did stain my lips a little bit, but these retail for $6, and I think, my L'Oreal glossy lip stain, my lips didn't feel real hydrated after this wore off, whereas with the L'Oreal, I feel like I still have a little bit of leftover hydration after the glossiness wears off. So for me, and price-wise, with the L'Oreal, you get, I want to say 0.2, you get twice as much as this. So if you bought 2 of these, that's going to cost you $12, whereas the L'Oreal is going to cost you like $10. So for me, I think I prefer the L'Oreal to these, but it's an okay formula. But I will, so this is our finished look. And then, like I said, the other day when I wore this foundation, I was not impressed. But I will update the description box. You know, the eyeshadow wore well, the mascara wore well, cheek products were fine. I will update the description box as far as the foundation goes. And then if I change my mind about the glossy lip stain or anything, I'll update that as well. But this is our finished full face of e.l.f. Definitely not my favorite foundation, but not the worst thing I've ever tried, I don't guess. But I thank y'all so much for watching, and all your comments and likes and all the subscribing and all that good stuff. And hopefully 2022 is going to be a great year for all of us. And I'll see y'all guys in my next video. Bye, y'all.